Well, campaigner Tim Costello has warned Australian charities it's time to find new ways to raise revenue so organisations can keep carrying out social work. He believes Australia is suffering from compassion fatigue and says there's been an evaporation of empathy, with the number of people donating to charities around the country steadily dropping since 2015. Earlier, I spoke with Tim Costello, a spokesperson for the Community Councils for Australia. Tim, thank you so much for your time today. It is an interesting point you raise about compassion fatigue. Can you start by telling us what that is?
Well, we see disasters on social media, and because there are more disasters, linked certainly to what scientists would say is climate change, a lot of people are in overload. They say, I don't want to know, I can't respond, I'm just going to look after myself. We understandably turn inward, but when you get compassion fatigue, you also lose empathy and generosity, and that's why so many charities are seeing not just flatlining but dropping amounts of revenue coming into them.
So I guess the big question is, how can charities try to avoid compassion fatigue?
It's a bit hard not to report a disaster if you've been in the overseas aid space. Look, when it's domestic charities, most people resonate saying, why are there so many homeless on the streets? And surely, given I'm sleeping in a warm bed tonight, I can do something, maybe give to whatever youth housing association I know of. But one of the things Community Council for Australia that I chair, that's the peak body for charities, is saying, is there's a lot of disposable income out there. People are looking for a return, and you can get, through impact investing, a financial return and help a charity achieve a social outcome. And we're encouraging charities to say, why don't we get into impact investing? It's going to be $35 billion of investment in Australia alone over the next 5 years that can go to the homeless, that can go to feed people, that can have great impacts on young people who get into crime, not to mention overseas aid programs. So impact investing may be one way through this.
So what exactly is impact investing? Because we do have a pretty big not-for-profit sector here in Australia, and sometimes it seems like some of them double up. Is there any way that charities can try to join up to streamline their services?
Yes, the Community Council for Australia has been running national meetings for CEOs who head up charities largely doing the same work and experiencing competition for the dropping charitable dollar and scrambling and hurting and saying, how do we collaborate? Sharing back services. How do we collaborate in messaging? And one of the great opportunities is this impact investing, saying if we go to investors using intermediaries and say, yep, you want a financial return, it might be a little less, but if you knew this was actually housing lots of poor homeless Australians, would you invest? And lots of investors are saying, I'm up for that, I want to do it. And that comes at a time when only the average donation to charities by Australians is 0.36 cents of their taxable income. That's 0.36 of 1%. I know my father always gave away 10% to charity. He was just a teacher on an equivalent of $70,000 a year. He felt blessed and he gave, and that generation often did. That giving isn't happening now, and we're saying to charities we've got to think of a different way, collaborating and sharing more, and looking at impact investing where there's a social return, social impact, along with a financial return.
Do you see it as a generational thing? As you mentioned, previous generations were maybe more inclined to give to charities, but these days we're so digitally advanced and there are so many charities out there. Sometimes it's a little bit too easy for us to sign an online petition and go on our way and think that we've done something to help. So how is it that charities can try and, I guess, set themselves apart and get the message through that maybe signing an online petition isn't enough and a small dollar donation can help?
Look, one of the changes that's happened across the world, not just in Australia, is what I call a turning inwards, so saying I'm just going to look after myself. I'm not responsible for anyone else. Now, my first responsibility is my family, and I should look after them. But when I think of the previous generation, I've quoted my father, there was perspective. They had a sense we are blessed. They were much poorer than I am. We owned one family home. My brother and I shared a bedroom for 16 years. Most kids have their own bedroom. I often find it intriguing that even upper middle class people regard as a fundamental human right the holiday in Bali on the beachfront each year. Look, it used to be holidays at Rosebud, which is 60 kilometres out of Melbourne, in a caravan. That was actually a wonderful holiday when I was a kid. And my father, that generation felt blessed, and they were generous. They gave. I think the loss of perspective, that we can make a difference, that it is indeed wonderful to give and to give hope to people, has been part of this world zeitgeist, if I can call it that, of turning inwards, of perhaps just step by step becoming a bit more meaner, feeling I don't have to do anything. So charities do need to challenge that, but we also need to look for novel new ways, which is what impact investing is.
Do you think that the onus should be on individuals as well to take a look at themselves and think, you know, going to a protest or signing an online petition, although you feel like that might be helping, it's actually not helping a lot of these charities in reality, and just a small dollar donation can have a much bigger impact?
Yeah, no, that's totally true. I mean, click activism is pretty self-indulgent. I don't get off the couch and I say I've done something, I've been part of a protest. Actually, you extend your humanity when you show empathy and say, what would it be like if that was me or my family in that situation, and I can give, and it hurts me a little bit because I've chosen to give. But I strongly believe we are blessed to be a blessing to others, that giving is more blessed than simply receiving. And I think we teach our kids agency when we say to them, you know, you can make a difference. You are blessed. Out of gratitude, give something of your pocket money. I think that's better for our kids' mental health, social and spiritual well-being. I think that message has to get through again.
Absolutely. Now, just finally, practically, let's look at it. For people out there who are maybe watching this and thinking they should give to charity, what is the best way to do it, and how do they know which charity to support?
Look, most charities regulated by the National Charities Regulator are regulated very, very well and very tightly. And I think people give themselves a leave pass saying, oh, the money doesn't get there. Let me say the money does get there. Now, certainly have a look at overheads, have a look at the effectiveness of the charity, but that water cooler virus that says I don't have to give because I've got this nice convenient excuse the money never gets there, that's just not true. That's not true. That's just a leave pass. Our human empathy is intensified when we say, I can do something. I can't save everybody, but that doesn't give me a leave pass to say I'm not going to help anybody. I think that goes back to our personal sense of morality and empathy.